If you're planning to purchase or you own a 20 to 35-year-old Mercedes-Benz, this right here, I guarantee this right here, is something that you're going to have to deal with at some point in your ownership. This is the ignition key and tumbler assembly that you see here. And look what's happening to my own car today. I'll put the key in and I cannot turn it. Look at that, it's sticking, I'm wiggling, I'm sticking. Oh, there it went, see that? It just went, but if I pull it back and put it back in, you know, I cannot turn it. If this should happen to you, you need to fix it immediately when it's just starting to stick. You can't imagine how many reports we've received from people who have gotten stranded because if you cannot turn the key, you cannot get this part out easily to replace it. Now, a lot of times people will go get new keys made. This is what's happened here. See, that's an aftermarket key. And obviously the key place just ground the old worn out key to the new key, and that's not going to solve the problem. You need to replace this unit right here. So let's talk about, there's actually 3 parts made up in this ignition lock switch assembly. I'm going to show you those now. The first part I want to show you is the ignition tumbler and key assembly. This is the part that wears out most often. You know, the key gets worn and this starts, the tumbler pins in there start sticking, and this can be replaced quite easily if you can turn it. Once again, you have to be able to turn the key on in order to insert the special tools. You have special pin tools that go in, release the mechanism, then you can pull this out and put the new part in, and you can do that without having to, you know, get into the dash. So that's why you want to do that right away. Now this is the lock assembly right here. This large assembly is the steering lock, and you can see when you remove the key, the pin goes in and locks the steering, keeps people from, you know, stealing your car. And the tumbler goes in this end, and then the third part is the ignition switch. This is what the ignition switch looks like. It screws right onto the back. See that? It screws right onto the back of the lock assembly. And this provides all the key electrical contacts within the car when you turn the key, including engaging the starter motor. So, if your problems are just sticking key, I would recommend that you begin by changing the key and tumbler assembly. If you have problems with the key not springing back, okay, if you turn the key and it doesn't spring back when you're trying to start the car, that's going to be an ignition switch problem. The spring, the kickback spring, is located right here in this ignition switch. And if you're having a bunch of electrical issues that you can't sort out, a lot of times these switches will deteriorate internally, and it'll just raise havoc with some of the electrical systems in your car. Not just the starter. It could be the heater blower motor and some other things not working right, and it could come back right to this switch right here. So I've got a bunch of these little parts laid out here. Now I want to show you up close specifically some of the challenge you might be faced with when you go take on doing this job yourself. Here is a used tumbler assembly I just replaced the other day. Look at the wear in the key. Just look at the wear. You can see the plating is worn off and it started to round off on the edges. If your key looks like this, you might want to go get a new key made at the dealer, which they'll cut the key for the VIN number, provided your lock or tumbler assembly has been changed. But this is what was causing all the sticking. This is just worn out, see? I get the key in there and it would stick, and then I'd wiggle it a little bit like this and pull it back and wiggle it some more, and then I could get it to turn. So fortunately I was able to get it to turn in the right position so I could remove it. But here's something else I want to caution you about if you're just replacing the key and tumbler assembly. Here's the new unit that I'm going to put in this station wagon here. Notice it's very clean and it looks very pretty, but it does not have any lubrication right here. And look at this. Look at how dirty and gummy these get. And then if you look down inside here, you can see all the junk and crud. So you might end up replacing your tumbler with a new tumbler, but it still may stick, or it may not release and lock. And usually, in most cases, that's due to grease in here that's gotten very hard, very stiff. So you need to clean this out and apply a very special lubricant, which we include in our kits. I also want to caution you that just replacing the tumbler assembly may not fix your problem. You may end up needing a complete lock assembly. We do sell these, by the way, and we found that many times on these high mileage older Benzes, you're better off rather than just fighting going from this to the, and then you get the lock change and you find out the switch is worn out, is just replace the entire unit here. We sell these assembled and ready to go in the car. In fact, this one's out of a 90 to 95 model with the transmission lockout assembly. We only sell these assembled like this because of the difficulty of trying to put them together yourself. Let me give you a couple more warnings. It may sound like I'm trying to scare you, and in a way I am, because if you cannot turn the key, don't think you can go to a locksmith and have him solve your problem. He can't make a new key. He can't do anything for you. And if you can't unlock the car and turn the key to get the assembly out, you've got to get in there and start drilling and cutting and grinding. And it only can be done. I've seen people try to use a drill bit to try to go right through the center of the tumbler. And this steel is so hard, it doesn't even work. And if you take it into a shop, you could spend hundreds, I'm talking about hundreds of dollars, to get them to try to get your ignition lock unlocked and out of the car and a new one installed. So it's not a matter of trying to scare you, it's just trying to save you a lot of money. If you take the preventative measures, you do it before it becomes a problem, it's not expensive, particularly if you do it yourself. And I'm proud to say that Mercedessource offers the most complete line of resources to solve this problem of any website in the world. We have manuals. I have a video that I shot that's almost an hour long. It's an on-demand video available on my website where a customer brought in a 1990 300D. Now, the 1990 to 1995 models, you can't even move them. You can't even move them if you can't turn the key. So he had to have the car trailered in, and I shot a complete video on what it took to cut and grind the steering lock out of the car. You'll get a kick out of watching that video, and that'll put the fear into you if nothing else does. So, if nothing else, maybe if your key still looks okay and it's still turning, I would recommend you remove the tumbler and re-lubricate it. It hasn't been lubricated in 20 to 35 years, okay? So we have a very special lubricant that we offer, and we customize a brush. You're going to laugh because literally we have to customize this brush so it can get in there and clean the inside of the steering lock assembly and actually apply this very special lubricant. And then we have the special tools. You have special pin tools that you're going to need to remove the tumblers from your car. And then we have I have a complete manual on how to get in there and get the whole steering lock assembly out, both when you can turn the key and then as an emergency measure when you can't turn the key. And even simple things like trying to get the seat buzzer switch removed from the steering lock can be a challenge unless you know the proper steps. So we can help you out. This has been such a huge problem over the years for a lot of owners that we've developed all these resources for you. So be sure and check them out at Mercedessource.com. You can just put your ignition switch in the search box. We'll have some links below in the Show More section of this video. And now, I'm going to take this new tumbler assembly. I'm going to follow my own advice here. This has been acting up for the last week, this 300 TD wagon, and I'm going to change it now. Even though I can wiggle it and wiggle it and wiggle it and get it to turn, the day's going to come when I'm going to have to drill this out, and I don't want to I've done that too many times. So I'm going to put this new tumbler in, we're going to lubricate it with the special lubricant, then we'll come back and I'll let you see how it's working. Take a close look at the old tumbler assembly I just removed. Even with it out of the lock, I can't even turn the key, and I have to wiggle it and pull it in and out. Well, oh, I got it to move, look at that. So we have the new one installed. It took about 5 minutes, including lubricating down inside the lock assembly with that special lubricant. Now watch as I insert the new key and turn it. It just doesn't take any force at all, see that? That's great. You can fix this yourself very inexpensively before it becomes a big problem. If you're having any issues with this right here, be sure and visit Mercedessource.com.